It was one of those sweltering Delhi evenings where the heat hangs thick in the air like an oppressive blanket. The city was alive, buzzing with the usual cacophony of honking cars, street vendors yelling their wares, and people bustling about. But somewhere in the heart of the city, a chilling crime was unfolding, one that would send shockwaves through the neighborhood and beyond. This was not just another incident in the chaotic life of Delhi. No, this one was different. It was a brutal, almost unthinkable act, a crime that would haunt me forever. I remember the first time I heard the whispers. It was like a slow ripple in the water that slowly grew louder and more frantic. There was a body, they said, found in a tandoor. A woman, burned beyond recognition. A woman with no name at first, but everyone knew her once they found out. Naina Sahni, a name that was once spoken with reverence, now spoken in hushed tones, accompanied by the stark realization of how fragile life could be. The police, the press, and the people, everyone in Delhi was talking about it. But what shocked me the most was that the woman in the tandoor wasn't just an unknown victim. She was a familiar face in the city, married to a man with political power. It was a case that no one could ignore, a mystery so deep that it left everyone in the city wondering, how could this happen? How could a life, a marriage, be reduced to such a horrific end? What secrets were hidden behind the closed doors of the Sharma household? I have lived in Delhi all my life. My family, like many others, settled here decades ago, drawn by the hustle of the city, the promise of opportunities, and the thrill of constant change. Delhi is a place where every neighborhood has a story to tell, but ours, it was quieter, somewhat more traditional, filled with families that had lived here for generations. Our block had its own rhythm. People knew each other, celebrated festivals together, shared stories over cups of chai, and watched their children grow. But not everyone was from here. People with wealth, power, and influence often settled in the upscale areas. One of them was Sushil Sharma, a well-known Congress politician who had risen through the ranks with his sharp wit and his ability to charm the right people. His wife, Naina, was an elegant woman, admired by the people who knew her. She had a certain grace, a calm demeanor that made her beloved in the neighborhood. Yet, there was always a strange undercurrent when people spoke of her, a kind of mystery. No one could truly say they knew her well. It was one evening as I walked home from the local shop that I first heard the unsettling news. A police car had arrived in our area and officers were knocking on doors, asking questions. There was a sense of urgency in the air. My curiosity got the best of me and I walked closer to the gathering crowd. The word spread like wildfire. Naina Sahni was missing. But that wasn't the end of the story. No, it was only the beginning. The police had discovered something chilling. They had found her body, or what was left of it, burnt beyond recognition. The fire had been deliberately set inside a tandoor. A tandoor, the same clay oven used to cook bread, was now the device that held the remnants of her life. And as the news spread, the people in the neighborhood began to connect the dots. It didn't take long before rumors started to fly. Sushil Sharma, her husband, was missing, and people began to wonder, could it be that her husband, the well-respected politician, had something to do with it? The investigation, like the flames that had consumed Naina's body, was swift and intense. The police were relentless. They combed through every inch of the Sharma's restaurant, a place where Sushil and Naina had often spent their time. They spoke to the staff, the neighbors, anyone who might know anything. And soon, the truth began to unravel. It turned out that Sushil Sharma had been having an affair. It wasn't a public affair, but whispers had started to circulate about a woman he had been seeing. She wasn't from Delhi, and no one knew much about her, except that she was young, beautiful, and seemed to have captured Sushil's attention in a way that Naina hadn't. And then, on the night of Naina's death, something had gone horribly wrong. The details, once revealed, were more gruesome than anyone could have imagined. Naina had confronted her husband. She had discovered the affair, and in a fit of rage, she had demanded answers. Their argument, violent and bitter, escalated quickly. Sushil, in a moment of uncontrollable anger, had strangled her. But even murder wasn't enough. In a calculated attempt to cover his tracks, he had decided to burn her body in the very tandoor that was used to cook their food. to destroy the evidence, to erase any trace of his crime. What was even more shocking was how Sushil had acted after the murder. He had gone on as if nothing had happened. He had played the role of the concerned husband, searching for his missing wife, talking to the police as if he were just another distraught spouse. But the police weren't fooled. They soon pieced together the clues, and within days, Sushil was arrested. The man who had once been a respected politician, a figure of power in the community, was now facing the consequences of his actions. The news of Sushil's arrest rocked Delhi. People couldn't believe it. How could someone who had been so well known, so powerful, commit such a heinous act? The trial that followed was one of the most talked about events in the city. The courtroom was filled with reporters, curious citizens, and a crowd eager for answers. Naina's family, devastated by the loss of their daughter, had to endure the trial, the endless discussions, and the brutal truths that came to light. For me, it wasn't just the murder that shook me, it was the entire aftermath. The way the truth had come out, the way the facade of a perfect life had crumbled in front of everyone. It was a harsh reminder of how easily lives could be destroyed by a single moment of rage. How quickly someone could go from being a respected figure to a villain in the eyes of the public. The trial continued for months, but the case was clear. Sushil was convicted of murder. The story of the Tandoor, of how a man used a cooking oven to dispose of his wife's body, became a symbol of the lengths people would go to hide their crimes. It wasn't just about a political figure committing murder. It was about the dark side of human nature, about secrets kept hidden beneath layers of charm and power. As the years passed, the Tandoor murder became a part of Delhi's dark history, a story that no one would ever forget. For those of us who witnessed the investigation unfold, it was a constant reminder that appearances can be deceiving. No matter how perfect someone's life may seem, there is always more beneath the surface. Sushil Sharma may have been a politician, a man of influence, but in the end, he was just another man who let his rage destroy everything he had worked for. Today, when people talk about the Tandoor murder, they don't just talk about the crime itself. They talk about the shock, the disbelief, the lessons learned from such a horrifying act. They talk about how a man, once admired and respected, could commit such a brutal, senseless crime. The case serves as a chilling reminder of how fragile life can be and how sometimes the darkness we fear isn't far away at all. It's closer than we think, hidden in the shadows of the people we trust the most. As I reflect on that time, I realize that it wasn't just the crime that left an imprint on me. It was the way it unfolded, like a tragedy, too deep to comprehend, and the way the mystery was eventually solved. It was a crime that shook Delhi to its core, and one that, in many ways, still haunts me to this day.